And we're recording. Hello, everybody. This is Nikki Scully. Welcome to Sekhmet, Transformation in the Belly of the Goddess. This is the first of 6 sessions. As you just probably learned in your email, I'm being called away on family business halfway through. So we're going to get 1 weekend off right in the middle, and then we're going to go 1 week beyond. And I always want people to know that, and here it is on tape, if we're not done enough, I will make myself available for us to get back together, or for people who are having trouble to connect directly with me after the class is over. The way this class is designed is we're going through as far as the canoe journey, which is the second to last journey. The last journey is actually when you're rebirthed, and then there's a ceremony where you burn your twine. But because people aren't, most of the time, or many of the people aren't ready to come out by then. But I was doing the class twice a week for 3 weeks, and I realized that was rushing it. So this way you have a week between each class, you have time to tie more knots if you need to, you have time to do the reading and really understand what we're going to be doing, so that when I take you on the journeys, which I'll do pretty closely from the book, although I will combine some. Like today, I'm going to combine the heart breath with the Sphinx, and then we're going to come back and make sure the timing's right and it's all working. Then we're going to do the fear journey. But hopefully most of you have read the first part, and I know some of you came in really late and haven't had time, so I'll just kind of go over briefly what you need to know, like where this work came from. And so you notice that I have Green Tara behind me, I have Medicine Buddha behind me, I have Saraswati behind me, and I have Sekhmet. I have a life-size Sekhmet in my garden temple that's made from a mold at Karnak. The mold came from Karnak. And I have a consecrated temple. But I think it's just important for you to realize that although it's an Egyptian temple and most all of the chapels are dedicated to Egyptian deities, they're all somewhat interconnected. And this particular work first came to me in 1997 through Medicine Buddha, because I went to Switzerland to teach a class, and we didn't even know what the class was going to be. And but I always got there early to get over jet lag. And there was an auspicious full moon. I think it was the 23rd of January. And there was this special alignment. And a friend in Switzerland, a doctor, had a Tibetan jewel pill. Not the ordinary ones that you get, those little ones, but it's in a little container about this big, and it's about this big around. And I can't remember if it was a blue one or a red one. I think it was a blue one. I think those come in 3 colors, one for spiritual, one for physical. I'm not sure what the other one is. But I was told that it would be subtle, and my roots, most of you know a little bit about me, are in psychedelics. I was part of that vanguard that was doing explorations back in the 60s. And so I expected this, having come from Dharamsala, to be subtle. Well, I guess maybe I was told it was going to be subtle. For everybody else, it was subtle, but I'm one of those people who I guess is very sensitive. And it was not at all subtle. And I do go through that story in the book, so I'm not going to repeat it now. Suffice it to say that one of the leitmotifs of shamanism is the shamanic death, illumination, and rebirth. And we all have to go through it in our lives, whether aware of it or not. So I would just as soon do it shamanically rather than have myself scattered across a freeway and have to be put back together that way. And so what I will say is, from all the psychedelics in my experience, that was the smoothest death, illumination, remembering, and being put back together. And the illumination that comes with that was this class, because we had to do the class 2 days later, so we had 1 day to prepare the class, and it just came flooding in from this experience with Medicine Buddha. And I realized, the cauldron that, like, at that first time she had us working with rage. And when we came through, we were in this cauldron that was like, had lion's paws, and it had the sky for a roof. And it was very different than what it has become now. But, so that was 1997. And I don't know how many times that I have taught the class, and each time it's become more complex and more sophisticated, in that instead of just working on rage, we started working on more and more of those pesky habit patterns that help define us, and especially the ones we don't have any control over. They've been embedded in us, sometimes since before birth, and on occasion since before this life. And so this is a real opportunity to go after those things that were imprinted in uterine, and especially in uterine in the first 6 years of life. And you have to work your way back there by thinking of, well, what was the last thing that you remember where you reacted instead of responded responsibly? And you think about that, and what you did and what effect it caused. And some of them will just take one knot, and then you just make that knot, adding it to your string, or however you're making your knot sculpture. And then you are reminded of what lessons you learned or could learn if you were paying attention, and you make another knot for that gratitude. And then you might, it might bring up something that you want to pray for, some effect that you would like this change in you to have on the world. And so knots for prayers are also really important. So I'm making knots. I guess I have to put my hands up higher so that you can see while I'm talking to you. so that you can see how easy it is. And if you're, whether you're, you know, a passenger in a car, if you're on a bus, or if you're just, you know, taking some time to really examine yourself, then you make knots, and it just grows and grows and grows. And you'll want to have most of your knots done by next Saturday when we do the next class, because that's when we're going to take our offering to Sekhmet. And it's possible that you have more knots to do afterwards as you go through it. And you can do that. But you really want to have most of them done before, by next week, if you can. Let's see. You've all been sent an invitation to a Google group. The Google group is really important because the reason that we can do this work is because we're available to each other to share our experiences. You notice that in the book I have shared visions, and there's some people on this class that are in the shared visions that have taken it that long ago and repeated it since. And what happens in the sharing is that it causes us to flash or have a deeper understanding of our own experience. What might come to us as a, what's that? Or why is that there? Suddenly makes sense when seen through somebody else's eyes or similar experience. So it's just really important that you engage with one another in between. When we were starting out, we did little classes, we paired people up and they worked together, but that was always so difficult for them to find time. But in these Google groups, and it's not only this class in the Google group, it's anybody who is doing this work is in the Google group. So we'll be helping other people as well.
Nikki?
Yes?
Could I just share something about the Google group?
Please.
So when you receive an email from the Google group, if you wish to reply to it, you go to the bottom of the email and it says, view this message online or on the web, and you click on that link. That will take you to the message and then you can reply. If you just reply as in an email, it doesn't get posted, it doesn't get shared on the group.
Thank you so much for that reminder. That's really important. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna just talk about my first encounter with her and why it's so strange for me to be doing this work. I grew up in Beverly Hills. I'm an upper middle class Jew, Reformed, non-observant, but I did go to Sunday school for, I don't know, 14 years till I was confirmed. But I didn't learn to pray until I started hanging out with the Grateful Dead, and our doctor was Rolling Thunder. And that's where I first really understood prayer. Weird, but that's kind of the way everything's sort of backwards for me. And it was the Grateful Dead that took me to Egypt. Now, the reason they took me to Egypt is because my ex-husband was the first manager of the Grateful Dead and was a manager on one level of another for the first 20 years. And I was with him for 14 years. And so I was very much a part of that scene. And as soon as I found out they were going to Egypt, I knew I had to go. But it wasn't until years later that I realized that was my coming home party. As far as I'm concerned, they did all 3 of those concerts just for me. It was amazing. And I was so enthralled by the magic and the synchronicities of my first experience in Egypt that I was back 3 times in the first year. And so that happened in September of 78, I think. September of 79, I made a commitment. I was on a boat. There was an accident. One of the children, we all took our kids. One of the children dove thinking it was deep, and it was in the shallows, and she landed on her head, and she couldn't move, and she was kind of paralyzed and terrified. And I didn't know what to do, but this native who was a teacher of mine, had given me a crystal, and it's all I had. And I just pulled out that crystal, and I opened to let the energy pour through me in the crystal with the intention of doing whatever I could. And she came back. And at that moment, I made a commitment to be a healer. And I went home, and within a year, I knew that I could not become who I was supposed to become in the middle of the Grateful Dead scene. It just wasn't going to happen. And we were sharing a house with Jerry Garcia at the time. It was a very difficult period, and I didn't want my kids to grow up in it. And I packed them up, and we moved to a shack in Oregon that a friend had that we could have for a couple $100 a month. And I spent the first 6 months looking for a place to buy, and my kids were just horrified when they got here and saw this shack. It had been tied to a tree with a cable before we got here. They shored it up before we came. But it was ridiculous. And then my friend said, well, he'll sell it to me. And he made me a deal I couldn't refuse. And so for the next 3 years, we built the house around us. And I'm still here since January of 1981. And I'm still here, and it's home, and it's a consecrated temple. And I'm just so grateful for all the magic that has happened. And most recently being the arrival of Sekhmet, the full life statue that is the guardian of the Holy of Holies here. And so when I went to study, I went to look for a teacher, and I was initiated to Reiki within 2 weeks after I moved to Oregon. Now, Reiki was not a household word in 1981, and it was very expensive to become a Reiki master. It was like $10,000, and it had to be all you can do. And I experienced my first miracle the week after I did levels 1 and 2. And I left 1 halfway through because it just I couldn't feel it, didn't do anything for me. Went and visited a friend, got a little help from some medicine, and suddenly it was like I'd been plugged into a light socket. And I understood the power of the gift. And I called the Reiki master, who was Canadian, and said, please don't leave Eugene till I get there and you give me the second level. And then I took that down to a concert the following week. And I believe that miracle's in the book.
Mhm.
Oh, no, it's in Alchemical Healing, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so John Kahn was playing a stand-up bass with the Grateful Dead in a concert that was a benefit concert. And at the end, and all through the concert, I sat up in the center of the balcony and I just kept hooking people up to Reiki, and I was just feeling this unbelievable connection. And it was such a turn on. I ran to find my husband as soon as they went off stage, and I found him in the dressing room with John Kahn, the bass player, who had his trench coat on, and they hadn't even done an encore. And I said, "What's going on?" And John held up his hands, and they were bleeding 4 fingers from playing a stand-up bass with the Grateful Dead. It was just, they cut right through his hands. And I grabbed his hand, and he pulled it away. And I said, "No, John, let me hold it just for a minute." And I just tried to pump as much energy as I could. And when he finally extricated himself, the cuts were gone, the blood was gone, and I was scared. My response was panic. All I could think of is to say, "Please don't tell anybody." But the next night, I drove all the way from Forestville to Berkeley to see him play, and he was playing again, this time an electric bass, and at the break, he showed me his hands and the cuts were still gone. Well, I don't know how far that set me back, but I think it slowed me down because it was too much, too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me some years to regain that level of security and confidence so that I can teach a class with Bruce Lipton. He'll explain it to people from the cellular biology epigenetics perspective, and he's brilliant. He wrote Biology of Belief. He's absolutely brilliant. He would give this explanation, and then I would call people out of the audience, and I would do healing on 4 or 5 people at once. And these miracles would happen. And, I couldn't explain it. I can actually explain it now. And I will explain it because all of the work, that work and this work, is all based in the same 4 principles of alchemical healing. The first one is everything that you have ever done in your life and everything you've ever studied, whether it's languages, dance, painting, anatomy, nursing, surgery, whatever you bring to the table, that's what you bring. And that's a quarter of it. Let me see if I have a book here.
207.
I do. I'll show you a picture of these principles and how they work. I think it's page 1. You know where it is?
I'm not the exact page offhand. It's about, I think,
I've got it.
quarters of the way. Yeah.
You see this? It's just that they're all, the 4 pieces are pretty much the same size and shape, and together they hold it up. If you take any one out, you're going to collapse the arch. And so what these principles are, your personal skill and power, that's what you bring to the table. The second one is the relationships you make with spirit, the relationships you make with the Neteru of whatever pantheon, of any spirit guides, animal totems. Those relationships are another whole quarter of it. And if I were writing it, it's one of the few things I would add to this book if I were writing it again. is your personal relationships as well. Because when I had cancer, and we only had 5 oncologists in Eugene at the time, and mine was the straight guy, the by the book German, wonderful guy, but how am I going to make a relationship with this person? I'm just this hippie. And so I asked him what kind of music he liked. And he said he liked classical music. I said, what kind? And he said, well, I like the Russians and Tchaikovsky. I said, well, I'm Russian. Will you make me a tape? And he did, because I was going to be flat for 3 months. And it was a very intensive protocol. And so he made me a tape. And from then on, we had a different relationship. We were friends. I could hug him when I got there. You know, I could ask him anything, and we'd talk about it. And I asked him, I said, does the attitude have anything to do with whether you're going to make it or not? And he said, absolutely. He said, and you're going to make it. And when I first gave him the protocol that I brought up from San Francisco, he started to back off, and then he realized he couldn't. So he said, I'll take you through it, but if you can't do it, we'll talk about it. And when I got to the point where I said, I can't do it, he said, oh, yes, you can. And he took me through it, and we did it. And here I am. That was 1992. So the third principle, and this is the one that everyone leaves out of the form, and I don't understand why. It's leaving a space for miracles to happen. It's like miracles are happening all around us all the time. And the reason we don't see them is mostly simply because we're not paying attention. But if we were, and especially if we consciously held space for it and asked for it, we're more likely to get it. I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen. I just came back from that trip to California. We had to pull the plug. We didn't have any choice. There wasn't any miracle for that person. Breaks my heart to think about it. But we did everything that we could. And we knew that. And the fourth principle is gratitude. And you can thread that through it. You can do it in the beginning, in the middle, and always at the end of every process of healing or alchemy that you do. And so this is that book. I've got plenty of them, but that's not what we're doing today. But those principles are the basic principles of creation. They can be translated into any aspect of creativity in your life. So they're very important. Okay. You can read more about the Medicine Buddha work. And I do have to talk about I'm going to put on, if I can figure out how to do it, I'm going to put on
Green?
I'm going to put on this, and I'm going to bring up the picture. What was I going to bring up? Ma'at, this one. This is Ma'at.
Nikki, you have to do screen share.
Okay. How do I
bottom?
Go up to here, and where do I hit? Screen share.
Yeah, it should say share.
On your Zoom window at the bottom of your Zoom.
The bottom?
You might have to touch your screen window in order to
there it is.
Okay.
There it is, and here it is. Okay. There, you got it? Can you see her?
Got it.
She's there.
That's Ma. And bless her, we are here to serve Ma'at. She wears the single feather on her head. That is the feather of truth. She is both goddess and concept of truth, justice, order, balance, harmony. And most importantly, cosmic law, not people's law, but cosmic law, the laws of nature. And when we stray away from those laws of nature, Sekhmet is called in. That's her time. And she comes in to bring back the balance. The pendulum swings one way, and we lose her. We lose Ma'at, and Sekhmet is her guardian, and she's her warrior. And what this work is training each of us, every one of you and me, to be warriors for Ma'at. And it's as simple as that. While we have this open, I'm going to show you my teacher, who is Thoth, who is the architect of all my work, tells me when to write, when to go study with whom. It's very, very important. I'm going to show you another couple of ones. Here's the Tanka that's behind me, a close-up, so you can see the medicine Buddha. And you notice that he's holding the cauldron in one hand and a plant in the other. And it's all about nature and the cauldron. And the cauldron is right over his belly, because each of us have a cauldron in our belly. And I don't even remember which book of mine gives you that initiation. But the other one you need to see is Hathor, because Hathor is the flip side of Sekhmet. And in Sekhmet's home was in Lower Egypt, which is in the north, in a city called Memphis, which is right on the border between Upper and Lower Egypt. And she and her husband, Ptah, whose name means Egypt, ruled the north. And Hathor was in the south, which is Upper Egypt. And so the temple where you find the statue of Sekhmet that has been there for like 3,500 years. Wait, I didn't mean to be moving her. I meant to be moving this. To find her statue. Okay, this is her statue. And it has been broken and repaired. It's made of black granite. It's about 8 or 9 feet tall. And she literally came alive the first time I saw her. And there was a big tear that she shed. And she was just so happy I finally got there. And ever since, I've been serving Sekhmet. But my teacher, my first teacher, was the one that told me about Sekhmet and how important she was, and that her name means power or mighty one, and that this is her time, because things are so out of balance. And according to her myth, the myth that was written and what everybody believes according to how it was translated, of course, by men, was that when things were this crazy, a long, 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 long time ago, people thought that they thought that the sun was dying and he was old and drooling, and they stopped paying attention to him. They stopped honoring him, and he got so mad, he called the daughter of his eye, Sekhmet, and sent her down on the planet to deal with those upstart humans only she went into a rage when she saw how poorly they treated each other and the planet and nature, that she started slaughtering them, and she enjoyed it, and she really got into it. And so she just left carnage behind her as she went through Egypt. And Ra didn't know what to do, so he called on Thoth, who is the mediator of the gods. He's the god of wisdom, the teacher's teacher, and said, what do we do? What do we do? And Thoth said, have your priestesses and priests make 7,000 vats of barley beer. Now, you do need to understand that beer was the staple drink of the Egyptians. They couldn't drink the water. The water wasn't any good. So they had to use barley and make beer. But they spiked her beer, not only with pomegranate juice to make it look like blood, but with mandrake, with blue lotus, which was believed to be a psychedelic. Some say with mushrooms, which means it was a long time ago when it was green, because there were cycles when it was desert and when it was green. And when it was green, they did this. I've got to watch the time. Yes, I've got to watch the time. But we're good. And so they said that, I mean, according to the myth, they were, when she stopped to take a nap, was to pour all this beer all around her so that she would lap it up and get so drunk that she couldn't kill anymore, and that she would, be pacified. Well, first of all, this is not a goddess to be pacified. Let's get it straight right now. Pacifying is not what it was about. She went from rage to love. And usually the only thing that does that fast is psychedelics. So I'm pretty sure they put something really good and strong in that brew, because she came up, got up, looked around, and walked away. And she went south. She headed for Nubia, and she just didn't even want anything to do with Egypt anymore. And Thoth had to go and cajole her and talk her into coming back by putting a feast for her, because she did love a party. And he made a big feast for her, and then it was the new year, and it was all was well again. But you have to understand the metaphor of Sekhmet and the sun and that time of year before the flood comes. And if the flood's late, or if there isn't a flood, there's drought and there's starvation. And so, but even when the flood does come, as it's leading up to flood time, it's really difficult. You're hungry, you're thirsty, it's blistering heat, and the Khamsin winds blow. And that's attributed, they would attribute that to Sekhmet. But it's nature, and the gods represent nature, and we have to not forget that. And so this is one more picture of the room, but with a flash. There's no light in there except from that hole at the top. I'm going to go back up to the top. Actually, I think right, we're going to go to the Sphinx next. So I think I'll just leave the Sphinx up. And now I'm going to stop the screen sharing. And so I've talked to you about Ma'at and about Hathor. But there's this triad of Hathor, Bast, and Sekhmet. And Bast is the cat goddess. And the beauty of the cat goddess is that she, you know how cats are. They really love themselves. And so this is Power Animals. By the way, never buy the Golden Cauldron. This is the upgrade of the Golden Cauldron. It has an extra 7 journeys, a whole extra thing. And I can't get Amazon to quit selling it. They shouldn't be allowed to sell it. I don't know why they do. But I was going to show you something in here. Oh, yeah, the cat.
Or Bast.
Yeah. I'm looking for, I should probably use the index. The beauty of this index is it's broken up into, foundation journeys, preparation journeys, awakening journeys, transformation journeys, where's Bast? Healing journeys, exploration, celebration, honoring. Still not finding Bast. And the one that was added later was the Journeys for Liberation. Cat, Love of Self, 87. There you go. And what's important about this just a second. Cat. There's the cat. And this was written in the end of the 80s. So how she knew to put Sekhmet in and all these, Egyptian stuff, I don't know, but she, there's Bast in the cat journey. And she puts you in front of these different mirrors. And so you get to see yourself, how you think you look, how you really look, the soul view of yourself, the heart view, your chakra system in full color, and the 7th mirror shows you your unified self when you're at one with the universe. So there's lots of good stuff. Anyway, that was my first book, and it was published, I think, in 91. And 3 weeks later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and wound up having to cancel my promo tour. But it's the way it goes. But it's still probably my bestseller because, when I wrote Alchemical Healing, which is my next book, I didn't want to call it shamanic healing because everybody was overusing the word shamanic, and I didn't think that would be appropriate. And I figured, well, it was so powerful, I didn't want just anybody to read it. So I figured anybody who could get through the word alchemical, and I can't tell you how many people can't even pronounce it when they call me about it. And so I, kept a lid on it that way, because back then it was so far ahead of its time. I wasn't looking for a mass audience. Now I'd probably change it. Well, actually, it's caught up now. Now everybody thinks alchemy is great. So it's funny how things work.
Nikki?
Yes.
Time?
I'm watching it.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit about the Neteru. The word Neteru is the plural for the deities. Wait, let me. Neter is for male deities. You put a T on the end, and then it becomes feminine, netert. The Coptic Egyptian word was nature, and the English is nature. So everybody thinks of this high Egyptian civilization that had writing and all this cool stuff, but it was actually a nature religion that had its roots in shamanism. And people are just beginning to realize that. A guy wrote a book. Do I have it here? No, but I do have it. It's called Shamanic Wisdom in the Pyramid Text. And his name is Jeremy Nadler. He's from Oxford. And he did his research and he translated it from a shamanic point of view so that for the first time people realized that those writings that are now known as the Book of the Dead that are on the walls of Unis's pyramid and then in Middle Kingdom and lots of people's tombs was written for the living king, not the dead one, although it's useful for the dead one as well. But originally, in the Old Kingdom, when Saqqara was built, they used those pyramids or that pyramid for initiation. And I happened to be privileged to be the first group allowed to take people inside that pyramid. Since then, they've actually put a floor and a guardrail so you don't fall off the end in the middle because it's all hollowed out inside. But there was room for 45 of us to lie down in there, you know, snugged up and do the first journeys from Shamanic Mysteries of Egypt. That was right when that book was being written. I had to do it before I could publish it. I had to take people through it, so I did that in Egypt. Okay, so you know Sekhmet's name means power or mighty one. And we're in need of radical change on this planet, and we need it quickly. And that's why this book came out when it did, and why it got so much more sophisticated than when I started it in 1997. And so, Debbie, you probably took it with me 10 years ago. It's grown significantly since then, right?
Oh, yes. Every time we've gone through it, it's changed and morphed into what it is now.
And, oops, why did uh-oh.
What's up, Nick?
I have a black screen.
I see your image, but it's frozen. There.
Back.
Is it back?
Thank you. I don't know what happened, but it's back. Okay, so I think we need to get to the journeys part. We need to talk about knots.
Anubis wants to be introduced.
I don't know whether I have a picture of him in that particular thing. Well, here. This is the Anubis, the jackal-headed god. I don't go anywhere without him. He's my guardian, and he's, Sekhmet's my guardian also, but he's another guardian, and he's also the psychopomp. He's the one that he's the underworld person that you go to when you need to commune with the dead, or you need to find something, or he's also the god of abandoned and unwanted children and aborted and miscarried children. And
Here's another image.
drop it a little lower. There, perfect. Thank you. That's a good image. Thank you. And he's always with us. And when we do our heart breath, you know, sometimes I quietly, but I call him at every direction, every time I do work or take people through Egypt, because when we do this first journey, we're going to also be doing the invocation for the entire 6 sessions, actually for longer, because we want those beings to stay until everybody is safely completed the process. So although we'll close the class, we'll still keep some of the beings around. Anyway, we'll get into that when it's time. The last thing I need to let you know, oh yes, it's important for you to have an altar. It doesn't have to be a big altar, but if you had like a statue or even a picture of Sekhmet that you could probably get off the internet. Well, you have the book. Mm-hmm. So if you just have a candle, and it could be an electric candle, and the book and your knots, a place for you to keep your knots when you're not working them. And that's the limited edition. You can get as extravagant as you want with your altar, but you do need to have an image of Sekhmet and your knots and a candle at the minimum. And it's always nice to have sage to smudge with, or Debbie, do you happen to have smudge near you?
I do, yes.
Would you please light some and smudge the whole class? Because I forgot to print it out. I'm in my office. I did my last classes inside. I wanted to do something different. So, of course, I picked a snowy day. Excuse me a minute. I'm going to turn the heat off.
All right, it's having an issue here of it's starting. It's weird.
Well, if there's anybody else that happens to have some nearby, please smudge for us.
Well, I have the sage, so.
Oh, good. Okay. Just if you're going to strike any more matches, mute yourself.
Okay, sorry.
I wanted to mention another thing before we begin, that forgiveness is really important. There is a forgiveness journey in alchemical healing, and I don't remember where else, but that's also very useful to do. Any form, you can go online and look up Ho'oponopono, which is the Hawaiian way, and you'll find tons of really simple rituals that you can do if you don't have alchemical healing. And I'm going to just quickly tell you how the alchemy works. Our conscious mind does not distinguish between a dream, a vision, and real-time reality. Imagination also. imagine, dreams, vision, and real-time reality. It's all the same to your subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is running things about 90% of the time. And we are so ingrained with our habits and habit patterns. And it's that we're trying to move as much as we can out of the unconscious part of our brain and into the conscious part of our brain, so that we're aware, we're not reacting, we're responding. And to respond means to be responsible. And so as you're tying your knots, be thinking about those things that you react to and how important it is to change that to things that you are doing in a responsible and conscious way. Once we have done our knots and we have offered them to Sekhmet and we go through the devouring, you will learn, it's really fun, to live in two worlds simultaneously, totally consciously. You're conscious of what it looks like from inside the belly, even if you don't have eyes. And you're also living your everyday life and totally capable of doing everything that's required of you. Only you're more conscious because you realize that you're being conscious at least two levels. And as we go through this, we'll expand that so that you can become conscious at 3 levels and perhaps more. We'll see how it goes. Everything that we do starts in the heart. All the work we do, whether it's alchemical healing, whether it's transformation in the belly of the goddess, the work we did at Shift Network, everything starts with that heart breath. So I'm going to start out slowly with that. And what we're going to do is we're going to combine the heart breath, and then we're going to go directly to the Sphinx. And at the Sphinx is when you're going to have your first introduction to the Pantheon. And I'm not going to say who's going to be there, and you may not recognize them. You may need to. So things to notice if you don't recognize them is what they're wearing on their head, or if they're carrying any kind of a staff or jewelry, or if they're a bird, what kind of bird are they? Do they have a raptor's beak or an ibis beak, or whatever information you can give us so that to help us tell you who it is if you don't know them, and if you can't get their name, you can certainly ask. When you're in the Sphinx, you're going to be given a bundle that'll be wrapped in red cloth. This is a very important bundle because it contains reminders of things, important things in your life that you have neglected or forgotten or started and didn't finish, and things that you need to tie knots about and look for those lessons specifically. And this is an opportunity to get that direct from the Neteru, rather than just what you think of when you're going through and tying knots. I think And do have your journey and a pen, your journal and a pen with you. And now, before we go, I want to put us in gallery. Can you put us in gallery? And then I want to know if anybody has any questions or comments.
Okay, just either raise your hand on the computer or just raise your hand.
There we go.
Check.
Oh no.
I don't see any raised hands anywhere. Pardon?
I'm frozen again. I'm black.
Oh, just a minute.
There, I'm back. Are there any hands raised?
I haven't seen any.
And somebody unmute yourself and speak up if we're missing you. You're ready to go? Everyone's ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, let me get back to that image of the Sphinx. And share. Okay. I'm afraid to mess around with it too much because I don't know what's making it freeze like that. All right, so just everybody relax. Get comfortable wherever you are. Take a couple of breaths. And focus on your heart. Find the eternal flame that lives in the sanctuary of your heart center. That spark of your soul flames that's eternal. And feed it with love. Pour love on this flame. Love is the fuel. And then we'll start with an earth breath where you just send your attention down to the heart of the earth as close as you can get to the molten core. And then slowly and deeply inhale, drawing with your breath the power and vitality of the earth, the gemstones and minerals, the elements. Just as you breathing up, you're carrying all that power and all that good healing juice till finally you get up toward the crust and you get to the roots of the plants and trees, and then into your body and up your spine to your heart. And when you get to your heart, you hold your breath while you consciously add love, and it all mixes. And then you exhale in every direction from your heart. The next breath, you draw down from the heart of the cosmos. So you reach up and you inhale from above, drawing down the intelligence of the celestial bodies and beings and that field of consciousness that surrounds our planet and in which all those celestial bodies and beings are suspended. And then you hold your breath while it mixes with the love that you continue to pour and then you exhale. And it goes from your heart out in every direction. And now the next breath, you combine them and you simultaneously inhale from earth and sky. And you draw down and up the powers and the intelligence. And when it gets to your heart flame, you hold your breath while it all mixes with the love that you're continuing to pour on your heart flame, and then you exhale in every direction. Debbie, spotlight me, please.
You are spotlighted. You have to change the share.
Well, okay. Well, the recording's getting you, but that's okay. All right. Now, all right, let's do 3 of those breaths. And that should be enough for us to connect ourselves. So reach up and down and inhale. And when it reaches your heart, hold your breath while it mixes with your love. And then exhale in every direction. And then again, reach up to the heart of the cosmos and down to the heart of the earth and inhale all the power of the earth and intelligence from the sky. And when they reach your heart, hold your breath while it mixes with your love. And then you exhale in every direction. And this time, when you inhale from earth and sky, very consciously, the power, the vitality, and the intelligence. And then mix it with your love while you hold your breath. And as you exhale this time, your heart breath is going to touch, it's going to connect with the heart. Your flame is going to connect with the flame of the person nearest to you on the call. And it's just going to go around the world till all our heart fires are connected. Just keep breathing that heart breath, and it'll get brighter and brighter and brighter. And now we're all connected. And the light is so bright that it begins to attract all these beings that recognize the light, that know that I'm working and we're working for the planet. And so all our supporters throughout the cosmos join us. And you'll recognize some of them as they come in. Some will be strangers to you. A lot of them are part of the Egyptian pantheon and various totem allies. Now is the time for you to invoke those beings that you wish to be here, to witness for you, stand with you, participate with us as we go through this work. There's still a few coming in. Some are coming from very far away places and other dimensions. I want to thank all of you for coming and ask for your help in any way that you can support us and help us to bring back Ma'at to our planet. We realize that we've been participating partially from our ignorance and partially from we just don't, our sense of helplessness. So we pray that through this work, each person will find their Sekhmet within, their warrior within, and then Anubis will be with us throughout. And I just want to honor all those who have come and all those who are participating in the class. And thank you. May the work that we do find its way into the hearts of all who need our help, any and everywhere in the world. And we give thanks for this opportunity to do this work and have this magical experience. Oh, Takwiyasi. Okay, now in the center of the light, you're going to see a dot that's going to grow as we are drawn closer to it. It's the eye, if you want to look on the screen. The left eye of Ra. And you're going to be drawn to it and through it. And when you get through it, you'll find yourself standing between the paws of the Sphinx. You're out front far enough that you can look up and see its face with his eyes staring out over Cairo. And know that this massive being is an earth altar. It is the earth altar, carved from living stone, one stone growing up out of the ground. And we have no idea how old the Sphinx is. But the Sphinx holds the memory of everyone's Akashic record and every possible past, present, and future. And so just greet the Sphinx with respect. So just take a moment to feel the power and strength of this ancient being, the guardian of this necropolis. Gather your intention to request permission to enter these mysteries that Sekhmet has brought to us. And offer up a prayer for the powerful transformation to which you are committing by doing the work of tying the knots and offering them to Sekhmet and the transformation that will happen. With humility and respect, offer your next deep heart breath directly into the heart of the Sphinx, including your love, your commitment, and your request for safe passage through these coming rites. It's dawn, and as the first ray of the rising sun touches your back, the heart of the magnificent Sphinx opens, and you're drawn forward, closer, until you feel yourself pulled into and become part of the great stone Sphinx, leaving the sunlight behind. The molecules within the stone expand along with yours, giving the sense of being in a great and spacious room. And even though it's really dark inside the stone, you become accustomed to the darkness. And as you do, you're aware of many beings coming into form all around you. It's the light of the essence of these beings that allow you to see and recognize some of the members of the Egyptian pantheon that have gathered to greet you in what has expanded to be a great hall inside the Sphinx. Some may be more prominent than others, and you may or may not know their names. Do greet those that you do know and receive welcome from some that you're meeting for the first time. One of the Neteru steps forward and hands you an etheric bundle wrapped in red cloth. Be sure to thank the deity that gifted you with it. Certain of the other deities offer specific messages, tools, or information that will be of assistance to you as you move forward with this work. Once you've received your bundle and what other gifts or communications have been passed to you, the Neteru begin to dissolve back into the walls. And you feel as though the stone itself is closing in around you until you're squeezed back out of the Sphinx and find yourself once again between the paws. Gaze upward toward the eyes of the Sphinx and receive any final message that it has for you at this time. Know that the Sphinx maintains direct access to the intelligence of the stars, but also holds the blueprint or the Akashic record for this planet and its inhabitants. So offer your gratitude to the Sphinx. Tie some knots to add to your offering. Ground and center yourself. And be sure to write as many details as you can remember in your journal as quickly as possible. You can fill it in later, so just jot down whatever notes it will take to jog your memory. And then I'm going to bring you back. We still have a journey to do. So while people are writing, if you have a question or something that needs to be shared. Now remember, sharing is really important, but not all your personal details. The important things that need to be shared are those which are transpersonal, which affect all of us. I mean, sometimes you'll be getting personal messages that are specifically for you, and others, the message has a larger base and needs to get to all of us. So please just start talking and Debbie will spotlight you.
Hello, Nikki. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Who is it?
Nikki, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Who are you? I can't see you.
Okay. Yes, I'm not on video actually. If that's fine.
Okay, well, we hear you just
Okay,
fine.
I am actually in Egypt now on a spiritual journey that I am guiding, and I am now in Abydos.
What's your name?
And I have visited. It's Andrea.
Okay.
Andrea. Yes. And so I have visited the pyramid 2 days ago and the Sphinx in real. So, and what was interesting is when I stepped into the Sphinx, I saw Khnum, the potter, the god of the creation of new life. And in this red bundle, I saw just, earth, like dust, earth. And he just told me that I have to create something new. And then I asked him, what, a book? Or because I already wrote a book, I bring people to Egypt, I do sacred journeys here. And so he said, I have to create a new form of society, which brings a lot of heat in my body.
Well, if you're taking people to Egypt, you generally have big work to do. So I'm glad you're there. And
I visited Sekhmet. I saw Sekhmet yesterday in this little tiny temple that you shared the photo.
Right.
And it was a very intense conversation. I asked her one question and she said, I have to go and to lead and to create a mystery school. And I'm really like, my body is now so full of heat. Two minutes ago it was cold. I was freezing. And now when I share it with you, Nikki, it's heat. Like, oh.
Well, now my partner Indigo is in Egypt now also. It would be nice to be able to connect the two of you. So if you would email me, I will connect you with her, okay?
Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you all.
Yeah, and please send me an email. Okay, who else wants to share?
Hey, Nikki. It's Raisa.
I'm not seeing. Can you put her
I'm
up?
trying to find her. Keep speaking.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Hi.
All right. So I was really interested in something that kind of popped up in meditation was the temple turned like these specific colors. So they turned turquoise, orange, purple, green, yellow, and I'm trying to understand what these colors mean. Do you have any idea in regards to Egyptian theology or mythology, if there's like any like connotation, like specific meanings for the color, excuse me?
Can you was there a specific order to the colors?
Yes. Turquoise, orange, purple, green, yellow.
Well, they used gemstones and minerals to make their pigments, and they used a lot of colors, and I would have to do some research to put that one together.
Yeah.
It started with, what was the first one?
Turquoise.
Quickly, because we have
orange, purple, green, yellow.
It would be a really good question to ask in the forum.
Okay.
Because I don't know that information, but I'll see if I can find it.
Thank you.
And Rashi had her hand up just a moment. I'll spotlight her.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Rashi.
Hi, Nikki. Hi. So during the meditation, it was very beautiful. I saw Thought and Sekhmet, everyone coming in even before you asked us to see who all are there. And it was interesting. I saw the eye very clearly, and then it was like a geometric pillar that I saw, and almost people falling out of it. It made me feel very light, as if some baggage needs to leave. But the entire pillar then kind of collapsed, and they were everybody was very happy. It was like a very like a ceremonious and beautiful feeling, but I didn't understand what it really meant.
Well, it sounds like it sounds like a dramatic ending to a really important beginning.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I don't know whether it's personal or whether it's on a larger scale. It could certainly be.
They also they did say that now you have new eyes and a new vision.
Yes.
So maybe it's like you said, an ending to something and a beginning to something.
And definitely everyone hopefully will have new eyes and and heightened awareness with all your senses. That's just part of the redo, is an increase and a whole frequency change. I mean, those of you who were in the last class that I did with Shift, there were so many of you that are now here. You know how much changes happen there, fundamental changes, and this is an even deeper process because it's totally focused on that transformation.
Okay.
Whereas that work that we did was mostly focused on love and joy. And I mean, that's plenty. But we're going to try and get some of the other stuff out of the way this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions before we go on?
I don't see any other hands up.
Then I'm going to just go right into it. It's about fear. People are more or less have fear about, mostly when you get to the root of it, it's fear of dying. And the idea of being devoured by a lioness, whether she's a goddess or a lion, is not one that people take lightly, nor should they. But the fact that you're here means that you realize that the work, there's a parody, there's a reason why they say that, the harder it is, the deeper you go, or the more you get out of it. I mean, this is truly not to be taken lightly, and I doubt that any of you are on this call if you're not serious about it. But, or I don't like the word but, I'll change it to and. There's nothing to fear here. However, fear itself can be a real problem and a stumbling block for a lot of people. So we always try and deal with as much as we can to get that out of the way, to make space for you to go deeper in, because that fear at this point in your life is probably comes from your needs to survive when you were younger, and you may have outgrown the need, but that fear still has its grip. And so we're going after those. And it's actually kind of fun. So Sekhmet's going to take you on a journey and teach you how to stalk your fears, how to face your fears, and how to transform your fear. So if you're up for that, I'll just give you an image of Sekhmet coming in on her chariot of cobras to help you deal with your fear. Just remember that fear is really one of our greatest teachers. You know, it's probably your first teacher. The first time you touched a hot stove when you were told not to, or, you know, we all tested our boundaries in one way or another, and some still bear the scars. But this...
Did you do screen share?
Oh, do I need to do screen share? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I forgot.
It's okay.
Thank you for reminding me. Now I just have to find it.
Down at the bottom.
Share. There. Thank you. Well, it's not. I guess you're going to be stuck with me. I don't know how to make it.
That's okay.
Oh, share.
If you touch the screen, it will
There
allow
we
you to share.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay. So once again, begin with a heart breath. Focus and find your heart flame. Feed it with love. And inhale from earth and sky. Release it in every direction. Feel yourself connected with everyone, and feel how the earth is surrounded with this glow from the work that we're doing. And it's just gotten brighter because of the work that we just did. So continue to pour love on your flame. As you breathe, and just whenever you think of it, just consciously heart breathe as we go through this. So I want you to look outside that circle of light that surrounds us. See if you can look into that place of darkness. Because that circle of light that we've created by this call, it just wraps around the planet like a halo, and we want to go outside of that into the darkness. And once again, you see the eye of Sekhmet. And so on your next exhale, offer your breath to Sekhmet and ask her to join you and help you to face and transform any fears that still inhabit your being. As you connect with her, she stands in her goddess form, a woman's body with the lioness head surmounted by the uraeus crown and the sun disk. And for some of you, this might be the first time that you're actually meeting her. So let yourself connect with her eye to eye and heart to heart. She's going to place a hand or a paw on your chest. And you feel that sekhem, that power, enter into your heart and moving through your circulatory system so that it reaches every cell and molecule in your body. You feel that strength and that power. So while that's happening, you feel this waking up going on inside of you, as though your DNA itself is reminding every part of you that this goddess truly lives within you. And you're being filled with her courage and her power. Now Sekhmet will morph into her lioness form. She turns into a lion, and she's just this big, beautiful, graceful lioness. And then you feel yourself begin to become a lioness as well. And you feel your tail twitching, and you'll feel your ears perk up, and your whiskers, and your hands become, paws, and your feet, and pretty soon you're on all fours. And she's going to take you to a journey to the savannah. Go ahead and stretch into the fullness of your lioness being. Just like the big cats do, like Sekhmet's doing. And then she takes off, and you follow her. You know that she knows exactly where she's going. And with each stride, your senses become more and more acute. And you become more graceful in your lioness body. In the distance, you begin to perceive the first fear that's coming to meet you. Sekhmet shows you how to stop and crouch in the grass to watch. Once you're still and quiet and hidden, observe this fear closely. Listen carefully. Sniff the air. Fear has a smell, and you can smell it. You can even taste it on your tongue. Is this a fear that is serving your higher self? Is it keeping you safe? Notice where it's in your body and how your body reacts to it. Notice how you feel it. If it's something that still serves you, honor it. Thank it. If it's something that served you in the past, honor it, thank it. If it's a fear that you wish to transform, Sekhmet may nudge you to stand and look directly at this fear. You hear a low grumbling, a rumbling sound. It seems to get louder and louder. Until you realize that it's you and you let out this giant roar. The roar seemed to have a life of its own. When it's diminished, take a moment to tie this fear into your twine. It's not necessary to know the story behind the fear, yet isolating it in this way helps you to let go of it. I'm just going to leave you in silence while you continue hunting more of these fears. Follow the same process. I'll give you time to maybe do 1 or 2 of them. You can do the rest on your own. It's late, so we'll just do 1 more.
It's okay to roar, to allow that voice out loud during this journey.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not going to ring the gong. I want to hear all of you. So if you want to unmute, do it. And let's just make it as loud as it can be. Good job. Any more out there for now? You can do them later. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I didn't know how that would work. All of us. Who wants to share? I know you participated, so. Yeah.
Hi.
Who is it? Jill?
Philippa? Yes, Philippa.
Okay, Philippa. Okay, then Jill has her hand raised.
Hi, so my name is Philippa. I'm from Portugal, but I'm in the UK right now. So I just went to Egypt very recently, and I had an incredible experience with Sekhmet, where I went with a group. So I went on a sacred pilgrimage, and when I got to see her, to meet her in person, I had something came over me, and I was just empowered to roar like I've never roared before. So I roared for all of us in October, and it was a huge moment. But unfortunately right now, as soon as you told us to roar, my husband walked in.
Here.
And I got really shut down, and then I could hear all of you collectively roaring. And it was like I was receiving the roar that I gave in October. It was like I had given it to the collective, and now I was receiving it in a really incredible way. So I wanted to thank the whole group for that, because my fear came through really, really very strongly. When my husband walked in, it was like the mail coming in, and I felt shut down. I felt completely like my voice was closed off.
I want my brain to work better. My brain.
I'm so sorry that happened. But you know that you can do this yourself. You know how to do it.
Yeah. I just need to find that space to do it, because even to do it in Egypt with, it was 6 a.m, all the guards were outside. We were a group of 21 in with her. And the person who's holding this group is Aluna Joy, if any of you know of her work.
I know her.
And and she said, "Oh, we've been waiting a long time for that roar for the collective." So it's a very alchemical moment right now for me, because that roar was something I had felt I could do for the collective, but right now for me, when you mentioned that, I was very shut down. So thank you.
Well, at least you understand why, and you'll be able to do it. You have plenty of time.
Yeah.
And you know how to use it in a different way, in a new way.
Yeah.
So I don't seem to have your name here. Is it Filipa? F-I-L-I-P-A?
F-I-L-I-P-A, Miles. Yeah.
Filipa.
And I talked to Ellis like the last second, because I just received your book yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And then Sekhmet just told me to come on last minute. She showed me the way, and I just had to be here, and it all flowed. Yeah. Thank you.
I think anybody can still get on until next week if they're willing to do the work to catch up. But next week we get devoured, and I don't want to let anybody in after that. And they have to be prepared. But they could do it. They could do it by the recording if they, to catch up. But I don't want anybody else after that. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm really glad you're there. Please, let's see, you're at Abydos now. Oh God, I love Abydos so much. Just give Osiris and Anubis and Isis and Thoth big hugs for me. It's such an important temple. I believe that is the oldest and most important temple in Egypt. That's my personal belief. And when you go out back behind there, is it still with the slimy green water? Felipe?
Yeah. I just went to, Andrea's there now. I'm not there right this minute. I just came back from there. So, but yes, it was. I mean,
that's the spot. That's when I want to do a connection. I have Sekhmet, but that place in Egypt, down underneath where Seti built his temple, is where the power is, and there's just like a vortex there. It's really, really strong. So make the best of it. Any other sharing? Thank you for that. Jill.
Hi, Nikki. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand for the first journey. With that red bundle, I got an ankh and a staff, but I wasn't sure what the staff is for. So I have to look it up, because I think there's different ones that look different.
There are.
Okay. So, but the message that came through is that there was a personal message for myself, but also that as we all put out what we're putting out, that we are to receive the blessings as well as we do the work that we're putting out. that we are echo chambers. And so that as we echo out, we will receive what we put out as well, and that we are to receive it. But, and then in the Sekhmet journey, the interesting, it was the fear that came through was judgment, and how judgment can, where it can come into the body, like in the jaw or in the eyes, like what you're seeing, what we're seeing, or what I'm seeing. And then, but good judgment can be discernment. So it was very interesting they said how to transform it. So that was a very interesting journey. Oh, and when we all started growling, there were dogs outside barking. And I don't know where those dogs came from.
They smelled that lioness. They smelled that lioness for sure.
Right.
Thank you for sharing. I want to apologize to everybody. I've been keeping such good track of time, and I just realized I was an entire half an hour off of what time I thought it was. So I was keeping track all right, but I was keeping the wrong kind. Thank you for your patience. Can we have some more sharing before I give the homework?
I can. Hello, Nikki.
Yes.
Can you hear me? See me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so, oh goodness me, thank you. It was totally amazing. First of all, I want to share something with you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it came yesterday.
Wow.
It came yesterday, and
what's your name?
Barbara.
Barbara. Beautiful.
And normally it takes much more time for it to arrive.
Yeah.
The story is that in fact it already came. I live in Belgium, but I was on holidays and they sent it back. And like it was not the moment yet for me to receive it.
Well, you got it.
Suddenly, and first time it took me 21 days to arrive, and now it is one week. And it's just before the start of the course. And when we have started the journey with Sekhmet, it was totally, I started to cry because it moved me. It was really something incredible I have never experienced yet. She told me that she's a part of me and that she has my heart and she has my back and that I am very powerful, that I cannot keep myself so powerless. And I started to cry and I saw her crying also. I had a very sad day yesterday, and it's like when we were roaring, I was surprised that I am capable of roar like that.
Yay, we all are.
Like, she made me roar so somehow I forgotten to unmute myself, and I said, oh goodness me, it's better. Because I have never done something so powerful, and I feel like I am so open, so released, and so happy.
I can see it and I can feel it, and I'm sure everybody else can too. And so I thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, who's next?
Let's see. Just put your hand up, and I don't see any hands.
Is there any chats?
Yes, just a second here. I'm just trying to sort through them. There was a
If
few.
somebody, in the meanwhile, while she's looking, just start talking if you want to share.
Okay, so actually, where are we? There's been lots of comments about the roaring. Let's see. I didn't want to wake the neighbors. The roaring scared my cats. They all ran from the room. Let's see, where's the other one?
I should have probably warned you. You might want to save this one for a time when you can get into go lock yourself in a closet or something.
So
I'm not sure what to do depending upon where you live. I don't have any neighbors, so I don't have anybody to worry about.
So Amy said I just had the same experience with my husband walking in right in when the roars began. I felt a little timid and could only let out a snarl.
Did the fear shrink?
Yeah, that's okay. So let's see. Awesome. Facebook. Can you share in the Google group? Okay, no, that's
Yes.
another one.
Definitely share in the Google group, because I don't want to keep you too much longer. I mean, some of you, I know it's the middle of the night. I tried to make it so I could get as many people from wherever in the world as possible, and I seem to. We're pretty much surrounding the globe.
So, Rayasa Montez asks, what does this all mean? So I'm not sure exactly what that, I'm just going to see if I can find her in Spotlight.
Yeah, let's I'd like to hear that question.
Okay.
I got a lot of answers for the question depending upon what the question is pertaining to.
Hi, you're up there. Rayasa.
No, I was just saying, like, what does this all mean? Oh my God. Everyone's just talking about their experience, but I'm like, what is the underlying mean? Like, I just feel like there's so much symbology, when you go into meditation, and I always, like, I'm just really curious about, everyone's, like, experience in relationship to, their waking life.
Okay, this is something that would be a very good discussion in the groups, because right now there was very specific intention to clear the field, to use, like, it takes energy. Fear takes energy. If we open up that energy by clearing the field, then there's an amazing amount of energy that you have access to that you can use for something more productive and creative. And the whole point of this work is to not only create that space, but to know what to fill it with and how to use it. And that's what the work is. Because by the time, if all goes as it has in the past, everyone will be pretty much a new person on so many levels from doing this work. I mean, we're just having an intro to the intro. But once you get into tying those knots and really get what making this offering for Sekhmet is, that each one of those knots, she's gonna, when she devours you, she's gonna separate out what's for muscle, what's for bone, what's for her, what's for you, what's for waste, and what's for, every possible purpose you can think of, because she's very discerning and discriminating. And then every bit of you will be used in a good way. And then what you make of yourself will be a co-creation between you and Sekhmet and the various Neteru, like the person who just shared, who was in Philippa, was talking about Khnum, the potter. By the time we get to Khnum, who does the final vessel to hold all the changes that we're going to make in every one of your systems, your skeletal system, your endocrine system, your whole being will have an opportunity to be finely tuned. And a lot of healing can happen as well. So why are we doing this? Because we need to be warriors for Ma'at. we need to be able to show up and do something that's going to help bring balance and harmony and peace back to our world. I hope that answers that.
Hi, Nikki. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Who am
This
I
is
talking?
Regina. My name on the screen is Seraphim Regina. And there's just too much here today that I cannot wait until next weekend to say something.
That's good.
So I don't even know where to begin, except that Sekhmet has been a part of me as long as I can remember. People would tell me I looked Egyptian. I've always had an Egyptian connection since I was a child. I've been surrounded by signs and symbols my entire life.
Point her. I'd like to see her face, please.
Oh, I'll take my glasses off. Y'all will be a bit blurry for me, but I'll take them off. So what I need to tell you ladies, apparently, is who I am and what I'm doing. I'm here for a specific purpose, and I've actually just gotten together with someone that's finally going to be able to help me put my work out there. And what it is all about energetics and that light body that we carry within ourselves. And I was struck with fear from the very beginning, in infancy, I can imagine. And so for me, it's hard because I'm not just facing like a specific fear, I'm facing fear itself. And so it was extremely difficult. And I'm really proud of myself in this moment because I know that there's a nervousness there, but I'm numb. I just need to speak. So this online summit that I'm putting together, the title is Energetic, and it's to help others learn how to raise their light body to overcome things like this. This is my last issue to have to face, was my deep-rooted fear. It came from my father. It came from infancy, and like I said, it's fear itself. And no, I wasn't molested. He was physically abusive, but to my mother. He was an alcoholic. And so I don't think he ever put his hands on me directly, but just I'm an empath. I feel absolutely everything. And so I'm sure as a child, I was, I could sense it. I could feel it. And so I'm sure it terrified me, and I've carried it ever since. So yes, everything y'all were saying from the very beginning, Nikki, everything was absolutely resonating. I mean, even having the husbands walking in, my youngest, who is the most like me, he interrupted us twice. I think I don't know if it was caught on video or not, but he walked in during the first journey and left, and then he started feeling sick to his stomach, and I could hear him, and I was going to go check on him, but he walked in again and interrupted during the second journey. And like I said, he's most like me, and he's got this, I mean, just like me, even as a child, I knew there was just something different about me. And like I said, I've always had guides in angelic. I could never really see them physically. I could just see them. Of course, I could envision them. I could feel them. I would know what they were trying to communicate. I just would never see them physically. And I guess probably because as protection, really, because if I started telling people I was seeing this or seeing that, no telling what would have happened, especially with my own grandmother being diagnosed as schizophrenic. So you can see where like fears just kind of kept me boxed in. But now here I am sharing with all of you.
Well, good for you. And we're really glad that you're here and participating, and do share with the group so that you can get a discussion going. But we're running out of time now, so we've got to do the transpersonal shares. Okay? And thank you.
Yes, I know. So I wanted to hurry up and jump in because I knew it was now or never kind of thing, and I didn't want to wait till next week. There was just too many coincidences, which are synchronicities. There really are no coincidences.
That's how we learn.
So the first maybe the first young lady, the young lady that mentioned all the colors, someone else commented on the chat, I believe it's your chakra colors, and you may just want to have to face each one of those chakras in that order. And and if you notice, yellow is your last one, And that correlates to the solar plexus, which is more than likely where Sekhmet resides because she's so much fire. And she's, yeah, that's more than likely her source.
Be a great discussion for the Google group.
Oh,
That'd
okay.
be a good thread.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Really glad you're part of it. And is there anyone else before we close?
I have a quick question about Sobek, because Sobek showed up in the Sphinx and handed me 3 sticks in the red bundle, and I'm curious about Sobek, what you had to say.
Well, I love Sobek. He shares a temple with Horus called Komumbo, and he's a crocodile. And the thing about crocodilians is that they've not changed in millions of years. They're one of the few species, maybe the only one, I don't know, that have, certainly large one, that have not changed their form in millions of years. Everyone else has been evolving this way and that way. But meanwhile, so they have he has the reptilian brain, and that's in charge of the things we don't have to think about, the natural rhythms of life, like our heartbeat, our, eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired.
The limbic system. The limbic system.
Yeah, all of the things that you don't have to think about, they're going to happen. And so we want to be grateful to Sobek for having that wisdom that's allowed him to survive and learn what we can from that. He's got a really good sense of humor. He loves to be involved. He's one of Hathor's consorts, and he's very helpful to people if they have eating disorders. And he's very easy to befriend, and then he'll always want to be involved. So that's a good start. The rest you can take from there. There's a note here, but I can't read it.
Sobek has a strong connection with me in the Sphinx. That was from Felipe. Andrea, I'll be at Kamambo in a few days, a wonderful temple, and there are mummies. So
yeah, we have lots of crocodile mummies there. Yeah, there are some pretty difficult initiations back in the day that happened at that temple, but they've shut down the places. We used to crawl under and through and do a whole rebirthing thing there, but they shut it down because they didn't want people crawling around under the temple.
Okay, and
let's see, Rashi has a hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just
hi.
Putting her up here. Where's she gone?
Hi again.
There you are.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Hi. A quick question. I was just wanting to know about Tara and your connection, because she's the one who guided me to you. And in my first class with you, you didn't mention her, and now she's right there. So I just wanted to know, how are you connected with Tara?
I think she was the first Tonka that was ever given to me, and I have her here and also in the temple and in the little house, either statues or Tonkas. And this is the green Tara, so she's associated with the earth. She's just like the ultimate earth mother in this view of her. I'm not Buddhist, although I have taken refuge with Chenrezig, and I am very closely connected to Avalokiteshvara and that whole line. She's just part of the family that's in this temple.
Okay. Thank you.
She's not like, I don't do puja for her, but I am aware of her presence in that she helps keep peace in the office. This is a very important place for her to be here.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Nikki, so I'm just checking the time here. What about homework? And they should also continue to do the forgiveness meditation on their own. Or not forgiveness, sorry.
Fear.
Fear meditation on their own.
Till they stop coming. Just hunt them down until there aren't any more.
Yeah.
And have fun doing it. And just romp around with the lioness. Get to know her. And the more you get to know her, the more comfortable you'll be with her. Yeah. And it's going to be an intense journey. Read all the preparations carefully. It pretty much lets you know in advance what you're going to do. You can leave the journey to me. I'll take you on the journey. But, you'll get to know the players as best as you can in a week. I'm glad we're doing it instead of twice a week, because that was made it really hard for people. Yeah. But your game, they do it and then they do it again. So I think having a whole week is way better. Let's see. So read part 2, but wait for the journey. Tie as many knots as you can to go as deeply as you can into yourself, and prepare a feast for Sekhmet with your knots. Just carry your bundle with you and just tie knots and tie knots and tie more knots. And it's in the tying of the knots that you'll understand why it's so important and what it will mean to her when you bring her that meal. And I'm so happy for those of you that are in Egypt that have either seen her or will see her during the time that you're in the belly. It's great, because Indigo's there now too. If anybody wants to connect with her, let me know and I'll give you her local phone number there. So I guess, unless anybody has more questions from Katya oops, I missed it.
Okay.
I did want to say one thing quickly, if I could, just because it was about the knots. When we first started the fear journey today, my knots wouldn't work. Like, they just didn't stick. And I was sort of like, wow, that's kind of freaky, but I persisted. I was trying to tie the knot and it would just come out. I was like, gee, that's kind of interesting. But anyway, I got them going, thankfully, with the help of Sekhmet.
Once you get the rhythm of it, and then you can do them really fast too. And it just, yeah, I mean, when I do tobacco ties, like for a vision quest, and I have to do 106 knots for each direction, and then you build your altar with them, and that's the space that you have to do your vision quest. Mine I did in a lodge, so I used mine differently, but that's different. Those are prayer ties. These are knots.
Nikki,
totally
how we do the knots?
Hmm?
How we do the knots? Can you show us?
Yeah, sure. Here, okay. So here's my bundle. If I unravel it, it's still straight, but I'm gonna make it tight because it'll be easier for me to build so I just do like that. Then I've got this. Then I can make a ring. I put the whole thing through it. Oops, wait.
I can't see you, Nikki. You have to hold it up. Yeah.
Here, I'll put this down so you can see. How can I do this? Okay, so All right, I already put it in. So here's the knot. Now I've got to get the knot down where I want it.
Maybe if you tip the computer slightly.
I'll tip the computer for the next knot, but let me finish this knot first. Let me just open it up so I can get it down there. So I like to make them about a ½ an inch apart. So I just ran it down there, and then, well, there, I made it. It's a little longer, but the idea is you just take the bundle, you put it through, pull it through, and then you just have it right there.
Okay.
Sorry, Azira has a question. Just a moment. You're spotlighted. Go ahead.
You got it?
Is there any particular chapters we should read from the book before Saturday, besides like Sekhmet?
You
1 through 5 brings you up to feeding Sekhmet.
Yeah, so you want to get all the way to what?
Chapter 5.
Just look at
chapter 5.
Where? Okay, dealing with
Chapter
fear.
6 starts on 63.
So feeding. So from 63 to. Do you go to 101? Where do we go?
It takes us to, well, 92 is the end of part 2 page. So that would be.
So we will do, I don't know how far we'll get next week, but read at least complete. Is in the soup in that, which part is in the soup in?
No, that's in the soup is in the part 3.
That's chapter 2.
The end of offering.
So read to page 92.
Yeah.
For sure. Be sure you've read to page 92. But if you want to read further, read it all. You can read it all 2 or 3 times. It'll just get deeper. But at least to 92. And we'll go as far as we can next week. I like to get to Lost Hopes and Dreams, and maybe even do Lost Hopes and Dreams. But that's probably that would be the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we can. You've been very patient with me, and I thank you. And I'll try and be more conscious of the time next time. I did speak fast. I hope you got what you needed. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, everyone.
Blessings.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
From Ohio.
I'm going to undo the recording now. Bye-bye.